Back on the Marching to Madness College Basketball Zoomcast podcast with a good friend and a heck of a basketball coach from out in Nashville, Tennessee, Coach Casey Alexander. His Bruins are 52-11 through his first two seasons. He has 190 wins total overall. You're going to most assuredly break that 200 number early in the season. And to be quite honest with you, Coach, the 26-4 a year ago, and that snub, but by the NCAA tournament, they left a team out, in my opinion, that could have gotten into the Sweet 16. Is that a motivator for your kids, maybe unfinished business?
Yeah, I think so. Not so much because, we felt like we got a raw deal. I think it's just we had such a remarkable season. We were 24-1 going into the last weekend of the regular season, and our all-conference post player gets hurt, and we end up get swept in the last weekend, and then we lose in the championship game of the tournament and got nothing to show for it. And so you mentioned a lot of wins in the last 2 years. I mean, whatever you said, we were 52-11 or something like that, with two regular season championships and one conference tournament championship. But no postseason games. COVID canceled our season 2 years ago, and then last year we just didn't finish. And so there's plenty left out there for us, and I think our players are definitely motivated.
Yeah, definitely. And you got a lot of riches right there with that. Is this group of five starters all graduated? They stayed around. Talk about the loyalty of these kids. I mean, it's a cornerstone of the culture that you built in the program that Coach Bird had there, of course, during his historic tenure.
Yeah, there's no doubt that's been a real secret not a secret, but it's been a real key ingredient to our success. I mean, we've been able to stay old. We've redshirted a lot of players through the years, and we've had great retention, which is certainly abnormal during this day and time with college basketball. And these five seniors that have all returned are definitely the latest and greatest example of that. And you got five guys who, a few of which have had remarkable careers, and all five of them have graduated. All five of them are in graduate school, and two or three of them could have gone just about anywhere in the country and played, but they all chose to come back to Belmont for a fifth season, and they actually could come back for a sixth. This is not their COVID year. This is just the fourth year of eligibility because they had all redshirted. So it says a lot about their loyalty, as you've mentioned. It says a lot about the culture within our program, that they want to continue to be a part of it, and they love their teammates and they love the experience they're getting at Belmont. And, that's a great formula for us, for sure.
Yeah, and point guard Grayson Murphy, he led the Ohio Valley Conference in 7 different statistics. How is his impact different, maybe from any other point guard you've ever coached?
Well, it's really different from anybody I've ever coached. The guy is, he barely averages 10 points, but he impacts the game more than anybody that, I've ever played with or against or have coached. And, he's led us in rebounding for 2 straight years from the point guard position, and, at almost 10 a game, and his assist turnover ratio is great. His ability to make the right play at the right time is great. His ability to make the play that you have to win the game is great. And so you just, there's no, it's definitely not coaching. I can tell you that. I mean, he gets all the credit, and we're going to miss him sorely once this year's gone.
Definitely. And of course, Nick Muszynski is 6'11", 240-pound force in the middle. He went down, with the injury you talked about, just, gets unbelievably better, it seems, every time I watch you guys play. I really enjoy, looking in.
Yeah, and we go to him. We're a little bit of a throwback offense in a sense that, even though we shoot a lot of threes, we've actually made more 3-pointers than any other school in the country since we've been Division I. So that's a staple of who we are. But we always play from the inside out, and we always have a really good low post player in there. And Nick Muszynski is the latest example of that. He's a 3-time all-conference player already. He's a preseason all-conference player again, and I feel certain he'll be honored that way when the season's all said and done. But a guy that we can really throw it to in there multiple times a game, and he's going to give us great results scoring on his own, but he's also a really high assist turnover guy, which is unconventional for a post player. He's almost got 200 assists in his career already. So a really good weapon for us, especially when we surround him with 4 perimeter guys that can all make shots.
Yeah, and Luke Smith is one of those guys. He had about 12 points a game last year. He's 39.4% from three. I was just curious if you could share with us what was the key in him being able to transition so readily, because he played, I think, at a Division III school.
Yeah.
Uh, and he comes into Belmont, and it's like it felt like from the outside a smooth transition.
Yeah, it was a real surprise to everybody out there, the impact that he had. I mean, he's our second leading scorer last year on a team that wins 26 games. And, but it wasn't a surprise to us. We felt like we knew him in high school. We knew him at Sewanee, which is where he played Division III. And we felt like he was a Division I player all along. He has a redshirt year at Belmont after the transfer. He had a real impact on our team then. We lose our leading scorer, Adam Kunkel, at the end of that season, who was only a sophomore, and everybody thought it was doom and gloom. But Luke stepped right in and picked up the pieces and hasn't looked back since. A lot of those things that I said about Grayson earlier, I could say the same things about Luke. I mean, he is our coach on the floor. He's our best leader, talker, has the most savvy understanding of how to play the game, just has a real niche for those things. So those two guys together at the guard spots, and then you throw Muszynski in there in the post. Those are pretty good bookends for a good mid-major team.
Yes, sir. And did you find now, or have you found, as we've turned into the 21-22 season, that you can add even more depth to your playbook and things?
Well, because of our experience, we can. I'm not sure if that's how you're asking it, but yeah, we've
Yeah.
got, we return 97% of our scoring, 97% of our minutes, and not just that, but guys that have been in the program for a long time. So we've really been able to accelerate what we've done in the off season. We'll walk into game one feeling like, we ordinarily would feel after 5 or 10 games, because we just have that much experience and are that much farther ahead. It doesn't mean we're going to be better. It just means we've got a little bit of a leg up on other teams, because we much clearer understanding of who we are and what we can do well.
Coaches, they borrow from each other, and it's cyclical what's in vogue, I guess. But I was just curious, as you're kind of a guru, of the 3-point offense. Do you borrow from other people anything?
Yeah, I borrowed from Rick Bird.
Rick Bird. There you
That's
go.
who I borrowed
Why
from.
am I not surprised?
You know what? I mean, and some of it I can't help. He's the only guy I ever worked for, and I'm not smart enough or maybe patient enough to sit down and study other teams. And then some of it I'm probably just stubborn, because I think what we've had offensively has worked for a long time. So we know who we are. We know how we want to play. We know what kind of players and characteristics fit that style, and it's been a good formula. So we've stayed with it as simple as I can put it.
Yeah, Caleb Hollander, he's a solid rebounder, a solid worker, defender, but I know you want more out of him as a shooter.
Yeah, it would be nice because he can give more than what he has as far as percentages go. I mean, he's a really unconventional player, not an athlete by any means, but a guy that has really a unique skill set offensively. He's a real crafty finisher around the basket, even though he can't score over you. And he can shoot a higher percentage from three. That's what we need from him, is to be a little bit more of an automatic guy, a little bit less streaky. He'll go into a game and he might go 4 for 8 and 5 for 9 2 games in a row, and then it might be 1 for 7, 2 for 8, 1 for 9. And so we got to make that a little bit more streamlined if we can.
Ben Shepherd, he's good on both sides of the ball. I know he went for 10.5 a game last season. How does he combine being an offensive and a defensive player at such a high level? And then it makes him a whole player.
Yeah, no doubt about that. He is easily our best defender on the ball. He's our best transition player and finisher at the rim. It's really strange that, if you asked anybody in our program right now who was the best player all summer and all fall, they'd all tell you Ben Shepherd was. And so that's with all the other guys that we've already talked about, it's nice to have a guy like Ben who's flying under the radar a little bit, because he's a really talented player, really good on both ends of the floor. Did not finish the season well. He was a 2-time all-conference conference player of the week last year during conference play, and was really, really playing well. And then last 5 or 6 games just, kind of fell off a little bit. So if we can get him to be a little bit more consistent all the way from start to finish, I think we'll have pretty good balance across our lineup.
We've talked about, of course, the seniors here now. Tell us a little bit about some role players that you're going to be looking to, count on. Obviously, you want to have depth as you go in this year.
Yeah, like a lot of coaches out there and teams, we're anxious to see what last year's freshmen can do, now in their sophomore season. As you know, for these guys last year as freshmen, they didn't get a summer. They hardly got a preseason. They're just thrown into the fire, and they're living in dorms by themselves. There's no cafeteria. There's no in-person classes. It was just a completely different year, almost a wasted year developmentally for a lot of those guys. And now, now they can pack that experience along with what we've done in the summer and the off season, and they're so much farther ahead. So I think across the country, you'll see guys, really not a sophomore slump, but I think you'll see them be much, much better as sophomores than freshmen. Jacoby Wood will be the clear example. He had a good year for us last year, but he's a really talented player. He could be a starter, on a lot of teams out there, including ours. So I think he's the guy that's going to benefit the most.
As you look at the transfer portal, obviously, like you say, these guys could have gone anywhere in the country, but they stay. But there's over like 1,700 transfers. I'm wondering, how does this affect the way you recruit? Because now they're saying so many high school players who played at a high level are seeping down, maybe even out of Division I.
Yeah, it's I'm just being real cautious about it, honestly. And we spend very little time trying to strategize, and that may be silly on our part, maybe like burying our head in the sand a little bit, but we've had such great success with retention in our program. We lost a player this past year that went to Wisconsin Green Bay, and he was a really good Belmont guy and player. He just wanted to play more, but we have not had the problem with losing players that a lot of schools have. So we haven't had to focus on the transfer portal ourselves like other people have. We've only had 4 undergraduates leave our program in 17 years. And so we haven't been scrambling around at the last minute trying to put rosters together. That could change. I hope that it won't, but it just hasn't been an issue for us at this point in time. And we're one of the few I feel safe in saying.
Yeah, scheduling. I know you picked up some really good teams here. Chattanooga picked, I think, to win the Southern. You've got LSU. You've got potential dates with Alabama or Kansas, I guess, here in Orlando with you guys coming down for the tournament. And then Ohio University's your kickoff team. They finished second in the MAC last year, and Jeff Bowles does a good job up there. Talk a little bit about your schedule. I'm sure I left some good non-conference teams out of there. St. Louis, I know they're in. Talk about that non-conference schedule and, as a springboard into the OVC.
Yeah, well, every coach that you've ever talked to thinks their schedule is really tough and thinks it's perfectly built, and a little bit scary. So you can put me in all those categories too. But we actually like to play a difficult schedule. We feel like it's what our program and what our fans deserve. We're going to play 1 non-Division I game at the most, whereas some teams, especially at our level, are playing 3 or 4 of those games. But it's challenging. You mentioned Ohio. That's where we open up. I mean, that's a team that won their first round NCAA tournament game last year. They returned 4
Virginia.
starters. Yeah, they returned 4 starters and several other really good players from that group, and we have a lot like that. I think the real key to our schedule is the quality of the mid-major teams that we have on it. You follow that up with an Evansville who's clearly headed in the right direction. Chattanooga, as you mentioned, picked to win the SoCon. Furman, who's been really good in the SoCon. We played Drake in the first round in Orlando. I mean, what they did last year speaks for itself, and they return all their guys. And then you start adding those names like LSU and Alabama or whoever we might see in Orlando, and it makes for a pretty rocky road. But I think we've got a team that can win, more than our share of those games if we do what we're supposed to do, and it could make for a special season.
Obviously, change is on the horizon. Last year in the Ohio Valley, you guys transitioned to the Missouri Valley. And of course, I know that's a year away, but your thoughts on that right now?
Well, I think it's great for Belmont. My thoughts on it right now are that it doesn't really matter because we do have another year left in the OVC and plenty of plenty of business that we'd like to handle here. And, in the OVC, what I would want to say is that the OVC has been great for Belmont. We're great leadership in that league. We just felt like the time was right to take the next step, and the Missouri Valley was the right destination for that. So I'm excited about it. We actually already had all of our 2022 commitments made before that was even known or announced. So it hadn't touched us in recruiting yet, but I think we'll see a little bit of a step up in that regard as well. We've got a brand new practice facility at Belmont that's state of the art and as good as anybody's anywhere. And so we've got a lot of really good things going for us, and I think that'll help us as we transition.
Coach Casey Alexander and the Belmont Bruins, always a good watch, Coach, even before March. And I wish you the best of luck, and hope I see you and we get to chat some. You're in the tournament in Orlando.
Sounds great, Coach. I always enjoy talking to you. Really appreciate what you do for all of us. So look forward to seeing you in Orlando.